I'm Mo. It is getting towards the end of October, and that means that I have started my October TBR Tackle book. If you don't know what TBR Tackle is, it is a booktube game that is nearing its end. It was created by Kieran at KD Books. The basic premise of the game is that you pick 12 books at the beginning of the year, and then each month KD posts a prompt from one of his bookish content creator friends, and that prompt leads you to the book that you're going to read for that month. I vlog all my TBR Tackle reads, and this month I'm reading Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi. This book has been on my TBR Tackle list since the very beginning. It has hung on there, and I'm finally reading it for October's read. There are 2 more months of TBR Tackle, and at the end of this video we will be picking the next book for November. But it's not too late to play. You can grab 3 books and watch the prompt for October and read that book. You can grab 2 books and watch the prompt for November and read that book. Or you can grab 12 books and start back at the very beginning. Ever since I joined BookTube, I've been hearing about Yaa Gyasi and just the connection that she makes in her books to the reader. This book follows Gifty, who is born in the United States, but her parents were Guyanese immigrants who won their place in America through a green card lottery. Her brother was born in Ghana and has a special place in the family. Gifty's mom and father really worshipped and adored her brother Nana, and Gifty was kind of an afterthought or a accident child, and sometimes she feels that way, but she never felt that way growing up with Nana because Nana took care and protected her. This story is about Gifty living in California, doing her graduate studies and her PhD work in medicine. She's experimenting with the nature of addiction, and she's using mice to do it. Unexpectedly, her mother's pastor calls. Her mother is a devoutly religious Christian woman, and he says that her mother's not doing very well, so Gifty immediately has him put her mom on a plane, and her mom comes to California. So this book is all about Gifty's relationship with her mother, her relationship with her brother growing up, her relationship with her father, who she didn't really know because he returned to Ghana when she was still a very young child. And it's about Gifty dealing with the past and unpacking the things that happened, the ups and downs and tragedies of her life, and kind of all the things that made her who she is today and the reasons why she's studying addiction. But then it's all interspersed with her mother being there in the present day and the relationship or lack of relationship that they now have. So this isn't exactly what I thought that this book was going to be about. I thought it was going to be about more her relationship with her brother, which it is, but it's definitely all framed by her relationship with her mom. At some points she was sent to Ghana and she lived there. At some points she was away from her mother or estranged. At some points they were together and they're the only ones together. And it's kind of about her mother's mental illness, her own potential mental illness, and her brother's addiction to opioids. I'm reading this on audio. It's read by Bonnie Turpin, who I know is one of Books and Lala's favorite readers, but I don't think I've actually read a full book with her as the reader. I started a book and I liked her reading, but I ended up DNFing the book. I'm happy to be listening to her, and I think she does a pretty amazing job at accents and distinguishing the different characters, and I think that that's really helping me with this novel. I haven't read any of it physically, even though I do have the physical copy, so I don't know if I would feel this way if I read the physical copy, but the first couple of chapters of this book, or first couple of portions of this book, I couldn't really get into. I was struggling to get started in. It definitely has something to do with Gifty's work in the lab that she is doing her studies in, because she does experiment on mice and there are some graphic scenes of animal cruelty in medical studies. Now, Gifty, I would say, tries to be as kind and respectful and gentle with these mice as she can, but she's still like putting electrodes in their brains and giving them shock therapy. So it's still very hard to read, and she definitely doesn't enjoy that part of the work, but she knows that it is necessary for the research she's doing. As a person who doesn't believe in animal experimentation and doesn't like to see scenes of animal cruelty, it's definitely still animal cruelty, even though it might be necessary for the benefit of the masses. Not the mice masses, though. Now that I am about a third of the way through, I like the effortless way that Gyasi writes a character so that it almost feels like a autobiography or a memoir, like going kind of seamlessly back and forth through time, relating stories that might have something to do with the overall story or might just be tidbits into the character's mental state or might not have anything to do other than just deepening your understanding of the characters. Gyasi is with her mother and she's thinking about why she's a scientist, but in the meantime she's thinking about her childhood from infancy, the stories that her mother and father and brother told her about growing up and about Ghana. It's interesting that she can't distinguish a lot of those stories. She doesn't know if they are her memories or stories that these people have told her so many times that they've ingrained themselves into her very being. The way that it's jumping all over, because sometimes she'll talk about her very deep past or a story that was told to her about before she was born, and then she'll talk about her high school years or her college years, or you'll see a motivation for why she's become a scientist, etc., etc., and it goes back and forward, but in such a fluid manner, and I think that Bonnie Turpin's reading of that really helps because she seems to have just the fluidity of the thoughts of Gyasi, because this book is almost entirely in Gyasi's head. So well timelined, it's a very effortless and seamless reading as well. The one thing that I would say is a little confusing is that Gyasi has been talking about some relationships that she has, some in the present day and some in the near past. She seems to have had a love affair when she first moved to California. They're obviously not together now, or I'm pretty sure they're not together now. So those elements, you can't really tell how long ago that was, or if that was very recent, or if they are together. And I do think that it's probably intentional. I also feel that way a little bit about her present day lab mate. It's a little bit hard to tell if some of the stories that she's relating about her lab mate are from the absolute current moment, or if they're from a little further in the past. Sometimes those things are kind of interchanged. And again, I'm sure that that's a choice on the part of the author to keep us a little unsure of what exactly is happening in Gyasi's life right this minute. I'm not sure if I'll even read Homegoing. I know that it's pretty beloved, but being a historical fiction, I'm not sure if I'll really enjoy it. Although I do believe that one is set in Ghana, so I would be interested in learning more about Guyanese culture, even if it's through fictional books. Have you read any of Yaa Gyasi's work? Let me know in the comments below, and when I read some more, I'll check back in. I finished Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi. Like I said, I read this on audio, read by Bonnie Turpin. Her reading was amazing. She did a Guyanese accent, which was great. She made the characters distinct and unique, which was so good. Although I think I would have enjoyed reading this physically as well, I would definitely highly recommend the audiobook. I didn't update you in between because really, not a lot happens in this book. It's a very much a reminiscence of our main character, Gifty, thinking about her life, thinking about stories that she was told about before she was born, thinking about her relationship to her mother, thinking about relationship to her estranged father, thinking about relationships to her deceased brother, and thinking about how all those things shaped her. It's very much nature versus nurture, science versus religion, faith versus evidence. It's very much an exploration of faith and the faith we put in families, our own family and found family, the idea of can science and faith coexist? Can recovery from addiction be possible, whether that addiction is chemical or learned or mental. It's about depression. It's about grief, a lot of it as well. And I really loved the way that it was told in a very memoir, realistic, genuine style. Although you know you're reading a fiction book, I think that fluidity and easiness and connection that you feel with the main character is really this book's strong suit. You know, her grief and her worry, but her joy and her finding of herself, the way that it's all told to you like a real person is talking to you. I think that that's one of the most compelling things about this book. Although I did really enjoy it, I don't think this book is something that's going to stick with me. I don't think I'm going to think back to this book very often, but that almost makes me more interested to read something else by Gyasi. I have her historical fiction, but I don't think that's where I want to go to next. So I will definitely be interested to see what Gyasi does next. I'm super glad that TBR Tackle made me read this book because I definitely think this is one that I wouldn't have read if it weren't for the TBR Tackle challenge. That was my October TBR Tackle book. We will pick the next TBR Tackle prompt, our second to last, our penultimate prompt, in just a few days. So when the prompt goes up, we'll come back together and see what our next book is. November has already started and it is time to pick my next TBR Tackle book. Now, technically we only have 2 books left, and technically my 2 books left are Never Let Me Go and Long Division. But I kind of had What Are You Going Through in the mix too because it was a potential to be read. So let's look at Kieran's video. It's pretty short this time, and see what we have to do and if we have to change our stack. Which we probably will, let's face it. Kieran did put a video out a few days ago about like men's mental health and stuff, and I think it was a really poignant and interesting video and worth checking out and worth checking on your friends as well, especially heading into the winter months in the US and in other places in the Northern Hemisphere. You know, people are feeling depressed. It's been a rough going on 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it's been. I think watching Kieran's video is a great idea, but I think also reaching out to your friends and family members who may be at risk is a great idea as well. TBR Tackle, prompt 11. Draw Your Book is doing the prompt this month, and she said to take one of your 2 books. I chose Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguru. Now, I sort of chose this one because I had a feeling that we weren't going to be reading this one. She said take a look at it. All the words in the title or in the author's name. See if you have anything on your wider TBR with any of those words. So if I had another Kazuo who wrote a book, if I had another Ishiguru, if I have a book with Never Let Me or Go in the title, I have to find that book. Since I've been trying to pick only authors of color for my TBR Tackle prompts, I'm going to just look in those books on my TBR. Give me a minute. We're not really finding very much. Really quick, check the books that haven't hauled yet. The closest I have to this prompt, I have no other Ishigurus, I have no other Kazuos, I have no books in the area that I was looking with the word Never Let Me or Go straight up, but I do have Memorial by Brian Washington, which does have me in the word, and I do have By the Light of My Father's Smile by Alice Walker, and has my, which is close to me. I didn't see any other books that were as close as those. So let's watch the rest of the prompt and see what happens. She said that if you found a book, and I did find one other book that I was thinking of, which is Vampires Never Get Old, so that has Never in the title, which definitely is the closest, so I feel like I should go with either this or Memorial. But she also said to get a coin. I can't find a coin, but I can find a little thing. Flip it. Heads will be the top and tails will be the bottom. And she said if you get heads, you should read the new book. And I got heads. If you got tails, you should have read your old book, your original book. So I got heads, so I think I have to choose between Vampires Never Get Old and Memorial. Vampires Never Get Old is a short story collection with essays. Memorial is a literary fiction about 2 men who are kind of at the end of their relationship. Wow, the margins are huge. And they have a lot of like family drama happening. I feel like in the last like 4 or 5 vlogs, I've said I was going to read Vampires Never Get Old. And so I think I should read this one. It's the tail end of spooky season, and it would work with a short story project that I've started but kind of already abandoned. So I think I have to read Vampires Never Get Old, which is edited by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. It also has a bunch of various authors, Rebecca Rowanhorse, Samara Mead, a bunch of people, and theoretically my last book for a TBR Tackle should be Long Division by Kisi Limon, but I'm going to keep this in the stack too. I have a feeling that, you know, we're going to be changing up our stacks yet again at the end of November, so I'm going to put these in my TBR Tackle pile and we'll see what we get. And in the meantime, I'm going to read Vampires Never Get Old in November. Let me know if you're still participating in TBR Tackle. If you are, let me know what book you got for November. If you aren't, you can go ahead and pick 2 books and do this prompt. You can go ahead and pick 12 books and start at the beginning of the TBR Tackle prompts. I sincerely hope, but also sincerely doubt that Kieran will be doing this project again, but I hope he does, or I hope someone else picks up the mantle, because this has been one of the most fun things on BookTube this year. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!